Hello everyone, welcome you all to Believers IAS Academy YouTube channel, and in this today's particular topic of the day discussion, we will be discussing about an important scheme which was launched, in fact, announced by the Prime Minister himself in the very recent August 15th speech, where he categorically mentioned that this particular scheme will be implemented then and there from August 15th, as in the day before yesterday. So, which is that particular scheme? We're talking about the Prime Minister Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana as a very important, initiative in framing new India, not just in terms of creating jobs, but also in terms of providing a safety net and a secure, environment for the workers, the employees, and also the employers. By giving a financial incentive, right? So this particular scheme is about incentivizing both the employers and the employees, and above all, creation of jobs over 3.5 crore in the Indian economy, to ensure that it encourages job creation, and also it ensures formalization of workforce, as it encourages people or the companies to join the EPFO, and also to make sure that financial and savings amongst the workers, that particular behavioral change is also inculcated, right? So this particular scheme, is very important as far as India is concerned with respect to its present problem of unemployment, and also its present ambition towards making or creating India as a 5 trillion economy going forward in the near future. So today's video is about the Prime Minister Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana, and even before we get into the details, let's just understand what the Yojana, the scheme, is all about, and in brief, and then we will get into the further details. So Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana, first thing is important, which ministry, right? It's the Ministry of Labor and Employment, which is the ministry under which this particular scheme is being implemented. And who is the implementing agency? It's the EPFO itself, which is going to be implementing. And now, talking about EPFO, is it a statutory body or a constitutional body? Of course, the question, it is very important to keep in mind. It is not a constitutional body, but it is a statutory body under the EPFO Act 1952. Right? So this is about the EPFO. Of course, EPFO implements this particular scheme. And talking about the objectives of the scheme, as we have discussed, it is trying to incentivize both the employers and the employees. And how is it going to do? It is going to benefit, or it is going to make sure that it provides an incentive of 15,000 for the employees in 2 installments. And the idea is very simple, that it creates an atmosphere, or creates a workforce where the newly joined employees after August 15th gets the incentive of 15,000 in 2 installments. Okay, in 2 installments within 6 months gap, like as in the first installment in the first 6 months, and the next installment after 6 months. And of course, there's another condition with respect to the second installment, where after the 6 months, let's say in the 12th month, when the second installment has to be credited, right, the employee must also clear or pass a financial literacy test, right? This is also to ensure that financial literacy is also made as a benchmark for the employees who are employed under this particular scheme, right? And now, coming to the employer, the scheme talks about incentivizing the employer by 3,000 rupees per every employee hired under this particular scheme. And this overall scheme is valid for 2 years, and in an exceptional case of 4 years for the manufacturing sector. Right? So this is all the basic information with respect to the Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana. and you have to keep in mind that this is only for 2 years, but with an exception of 4 years for the manufacturing sector, considering how weak it is in India, or considering the importance of developing the manufacturing sector in India. And the government has set aside 1 lakh crore, right? So the total budget is almost 1 lakh crore, a very huge hefty fund which the government has set aside just for this incentive based subsidized scheme, which benefits both the employee and the employer on the long run, right? Sorry, on the short run. So let's dive in and understand the particular scheme in detail. So what are the key highlights? As we discussed, it first supports the first time employees, and it mostly talks about the employees who are registered under the EPFO, that is the Employees Provident Fund Organization. And what is the incentive structure like? It talks about giving a 15,000 incentive, financial incentive, which is 1 month EPF wage of an employee, which will be given in 2 installments. So the first installment will be issued exactly after 6 months of service, and the second installment will be ensured to be credited after 12 months, only after completion of a financial literacy program. So now why after 6 months? It becomes very important to keep in mind that the employees whosoever gets job, let's say would only join for this 15,000, and probably after this 15,000, if it was not made in a way that it is currently made to give in 2 installments, people would have just enrolled, taken that 15,000, might have even left the job. So in order to make sure that the sustainability of the job is ensured, right, the stable job or the stable employment scenario is met, it has been divided into 2 different installments. One is the first half exactly after 6 months, and the second half exactly after 12 months, provided another additional qualification where the employee, that particular person under this particular scheme, right, the beneficiary has to complete the financial literacy program. So this is for the employee, person who is getting the job. And what is the eligibility for this? This is very important. This is for all the employees with a monthly salary of up to 1 lakh or less than 1 lakh, right? So this is for that employee, that person who is earning less than 1 lakh in a year, sorry, in a month, employees with a monthly salary of up to 1 lakh. And this particular ambitious plan tries to push the savings, the mentality, the behavior, right? Because a portion of this incentive that the government is trying to credit to the employee goes or will be kept in a fixed savings or a deposit account, which also ensures that savings behavior, the behavior of saving is ensured. And then another important key thing to keep in mind as to how this is transferred to the beneficiaries is through direct benefit transfer using Aadhaar enabled payment system. So this is with respect to the particular employee as to how this incentive works, and that is the part A. And the part B of this particular scheme talks about how the employers are being incentivized. So as we have discussed earlier, so the employers who provide new jobs with the salaries up to 1 lakh per month, right? So these employers will be eligible to get up to 3,000 rupees per every new employee that they have hired for 2 years, right? Provided that the employment is sustained for at least 6 months. Means that particular person whosoever they have hired must stay in their office or in that company for 6 months, provided after which the government is going to credit 3,000 rupees per every employee that they have hired for a period of 2 years, right? And this benefit obviously extends for the manufacturing sector, as we have discussed that this particular scheme is valid for 2 years. It is for 2 years that they have planned, but on an exceptional circumstance for the manufacturing sector specifically, this has been extended for 4 years, and hence this benefit also gets extended for the employers to continue into the 3rd and the 4th year as well, as in for every new employment or the new hiring, guaranteed 3,000 per employee is guaranteed, provided that the company is registered under the EPFO, right? So this is another additional push from the government to formalize the informal sector into the formal sector, because if we see in the present case, the present India's case, more than 70% of the India's workforce is right now informal. So now, with this incentivization, it makes sure that the companies, majority of the companies who are right now in the informal sector, informal economy, will eventually try and register themselves under the EPFO, at least with this incentive. So this, in a way, makes sure that things are formalized. The employment is more formalized in the economy, right? And what is the payment method? It is the direct DBT, direct benefit transfer into the PAN linked accounts of employers, right? So I think this is very clear. Now we'll understand the advantages of this particular scheme. As we have discussed, it is very obvious, self-explanatory in nature, that it first boosts the employment generation in an economy, as it is guaranteeing the incentives both for the employees and the employers, creating a win-win situation. And second important thing is that it encourages formalization, as we have discussed, that now it tries more and more companies, more and more firms to officially register under the EPFO coverage, which encourages formalization. Third important thing, it supports youth and first-time workers, wherein it helps new entrants transition into formal jobs, which is pretty obvious. And then it talks about the savings and financial literacy, because of the second installment, if it has to get credited, a financial literacy test that the person has to qualify, make sure that people will be financially literate, at least in terms of savings, or how to invest a particular, or how to start investing their money, and how to make sure that the investment mostly happens towards asset more than the liabilities. All such basic financial literacy test is also ensured with this particular scheme for the employees. And also it makes the behavior change. It tries to bring that behavior change in the employees, wherein it creates that atmosphere where they can save, because promotes long-term financial security and amongst the workers, right? And last but not the least, it helps the manufacturing sector of the economy to boost its manufacturing, and also align with the government's Make in India agenda. Why? Because there is an exception of 4 years. An additional 2 years has been extended for the manufacturing sector, specifically to ensure that it promotes Make in India agenda, and also it kind of pushes the manufacturing sector further ahead to make India very resilient, or let's say very competitive in terms of the manufacturing sector is concerned, right? So these are all the benefits of this particular scheme. Now if you think of the demerits, of course all these benefits, right, all these clauses that we've discussed also has few demerits. No scheme wouldn't come with demerits at all. So one of the biggest demerit that we can think of, that is the incentivization, which happens only for the EPFO registered companies, makes it slightly difficult for most of the companies, or let's say most of the firms in India, which are right now in the informal category, because we have more than 75% of the Indian economy, like the Indian the company, the firms, right, the economic sector, it's purely informal sector, right? So that would slightly discourage the people to transition, to find that easy transition towards the EPFO scheme to encash this benefits. And second most important thing is the another important drawback or the demerit of this particular incentivized scheme is the lack of proper monitoring, which might create a huge problem, because every now the employer, even that the employer is being incentivized under this particular scheme, now the employers might might show fake hiring as well, right? They might simply show that one particular person they have hired just to get this 3,000 per employee, that extra incentive. And proper channeling is required, and proper mechanism where these things are properly monitored, right? We need proper streamlined processes and mechanisms, which will make sure that this is not taken or utilized in a bad way, right? So that is also important. And another important thing to keep in mind, or another eligibility, or let's say another demerit that we can think of, is the very short-term nature of this particular program, because apart excluding the manufacturing sector, which extends for 4 years, this is only valid for 2 years, which is very short-lived and would probably not serve the required need that it is implemented to. So this is what the critics talk about this particular initiative. Of course, it's easier said than done, that we have to see how it goes forward, because if the government has set aside 1 lakh crore for this particular initiative, it has to definitely or it will definitely make sure that it will implement this properly. So ultimately, the scheme, as we discussed, it presents dual approach to tackling unemployment by incentivizing both the employee and the employers, right? So this also motivates the youth to join the formal workforce, and also encourages employers to hire more workers. So as we discussed, if this particular scheme is implemented effectively, it can significantly strengthen the job structure of the economy in the India, in the Indian economy, in terms of job creation, and also support economic growth and improve social security coverage in India, and also make sure that the informal sector can transform to become a formal sector, and also ensures that the unemployment rates are reduced, to ultimately make sure that it reaches the ambitious target of creating 3.5 crore jobs in India. Right, so that is all for this particular video. I hope you have understood what this particular scheme is all about. Now, even before we end this video, let's solve one probable question that might be asked from this particular topic. So the question goes: consider the following statements about the new employment incentive scheme launched by the Ministry of Labour and Employment. So it provides first-time employees with 1 month EPF wage up to 15,000 in 2 installments. Correct. Second, employers in the manufacturing sector can receive incentives up to 4 years. This is also correct. And the third statement: the scheme covers only employees earning less than 50,000 per month. So this is the wrong statement, because here it talks about less than 1 lakh, right? Employees earning less than 1 lakh. So the correct answer is option A, 1 and 2. So that is all for today's video. I hope you have liked the video. So for more such informative content, please do subscribe to Believers IAS YouTube channel. Signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a beautiful day.